Time for convening having arrived, the Senate will come to order. On this 39th day, the Senate will come to order. Got several issues to take up. First of all, the chair recognizes the senator from the 38th.
Mr. President, it's a glorious day here on the 39th day. And the journal's been read and have found two corrections that need to be made to the report of the committee that made last Thursday. I would like to ask you to recognize the senators from the 45th and the 32nd to explain the corrections to the journal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The chair recognizes Senator from the 45th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to make a correction on the report of the Committee on Health and Human Services delivered on March 13, 2014, which erroneously reported that House Bill 990 was favorably reported due pass by substitute. The journal should reflect that the action of the committee was simply due pass.
Is there objection? Without objection, that report will be corrected. Chair recognizes Senator from the 32nd.
Mr. President, I also rise to make a correction to the report of the Committee on Finance delivered on March 13, 2014, which unanimously reported that HB 729 do pass by substitute. It's LC 287220S. The journal should reflect that the action of the committee was that HB 29 do pass by substitute LC 344259S, which should be in your books, as well as a second correction I'd like to bring to the President's attention, and that's a correction should be made on the same report which erroneously reported HB 1000 do pass by substitute. It's LC 410242S. The journal should reflect that the action of the committee was that HB 1000 do pass by substitute LC 344260S, and that is also in your book, and thank you, Mr. President.
All right, two corrections there in the Finance Committee that would need to be reflected in the journal. Is there objection? Without objection, the corrections to the journal will be made. Now, is there objection to dispensing with the reading of the journal? The reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. All senators having bills and resolutions to introduce, please bring them to the Secretary's desk at this time. First reading and reference of Senate bills and resolutions.
Senate Resolution 1224 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd. A resolution creating
Rules Committee.
Senate Resolution 1236 by Senator Balfour of the 9th and others. A resolution requesting the Georgia Secretary of State look into feasibility of a vote by phone in Georgia by conducting a pilot program in the 2014 election for use by overseas military voters and for other purposes.
Is there objection? Without objection, the resolution will be adopted. Everything else is on the consent calendar.
That completes the order, Mr. President.
Now would be a good time while I have the Senate's attention just for a moment. On the 39th day, I have requested and asked the doorkeepers to enforce some specific rules. So I'd like to have every senator's attention so you know with this very, very busy day, the 39th day, a lot of bills, 93 that are eligible today. As you can imagine, it's going to be very, very hectic, very busy. And as all of you know, each senator has the ability to bring 3 guests onto the floor at one time for pictures. You are allowed to do so. But I do want you to respect the rule and keep it to 3 throughout the day. The second thing that I would mention to you as well is if you do have guests that you want to bring onto the floor, do so, but obviously be mindful that you need to bring them on the floor, do your business, and then escort them out of the chamber, because the chamber is going to be very, very busy today, and I want senators to be able to focus on the legislation that is before them. So no members bringing in guests that just are staying half the day. The other thing that I will mention to you is that all House members, today we are placing a 3-member limit on the floor at one time. So the doorkeepers will regulate that, and as House members, if one comes on and one goes off, then another House member will be allowed to come on to the floor. And the desire here is they can obviously wait outside and work with the doorkeepers to get in to address Senate members or conduct their business. The Senate chamber obviously is open, and we want House members and others to feel so, but on this 39th day, we have to make sure that we follow a certain decorum that allows us to conduct the business of the day. So I wanted to make everyone fully aware of our rules today. Clerk will read reports, standing committee.
Mr. President, the Senate State and Local Government Operations Committee is having consideration of the following legislation, instructing me to report the same back to the Senate for following recommendation. This is Bill 429 due pass that House Bill 1043 due pass that House Bill 1109 due pass that House Bill 1122 due pass that House Bill 1123 due pass that House Bill 1124 due pass that House Bill 1126 due pass House Bill 1127 due pass that House Bill 1129 due pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Ligon of the 3rd District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
It is now time for the morning roll call. Are there any motions to excuse? Any motions to excuse? Chair recognizes Senator from 34.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 42nd. He is en route.
Without objection, the senator from the 42nd will be excused. Are there any other motions? Any other motions? Any other motions to excuse? Secretary will call the roll of senators. Please signify your presence by voting the yea switch. Secretary will unlock the machine. Senator, your light's on. Where's the accident? It is now time for our morning devotion. Time for the morning devotion. Would ask and authorize visitors to exit the chamber at this time, and the Senate will come to order as we prepare for our morning devotion. It is now my distinct honor to call upon the senator from the 1st to lead us in our pledge and introduce our chaplain of the day. Senator?
Thank you, Mr. President. If you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now to the Georgia flag. I pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag and to the principles for which it stands, wisdom, justice, and moderation. Senators, today might be described as an instant replay. Actually, our pastor of the day today has been with us already once this session, and we are delighted that he is back again. And I'm delighted to have the opportunity to introduce him again. I won't read his resume again. It has not changed since the last time it was here. Unfortunately, he still graduated from Georgia Tech, and that has not changed. But nevertheless, we invited him back again. I do want to correct one thing that I was told that I said last time by the senator from the 31st, that I said that he graduated from Wesley Theological Seminary. I said cemetery, but it is seminary, okay? It was seminary that he had graduated from. But it does give me great pleasure to welcome Dr. Charles Gardner to the Senate again. You may recall Dr. Gardner is the pastor at the historic Atlanta First United Methodist Church, which is my place of worship when I'm away from Savannah and here in Atlanta. Join me and please give Dr. Gardner a warm welcome to the Senate today.
Good morning. Thank you. It's good to be back with you this morning. I know that this is a busy day for y'all. I was with you last on January 28th, and if you will recall, January 28th, that was the day I wore a snowman tie, and it was more prophetic than any of us could have imagined that day. But a lot has transpired in that time since we last gathered. A lot has gone on. You have been busy with the work of the state, for which we are all grateful. This past Saturday evening, I had the opportunity to attend a dinner at which my mentor, Don Hart, was being honored. And he was introduced by Coach Bill Curry, another good Yellow Jacket. And Bill told the story of how when Don was a little boy growing up in Inman, Georgia, that his primary job in the mornings was to grab the pail and go down to the spring-fed creek down on the edge of the farm and to gather the water. So one morning, Don grabbed his bucket and he ran down to the creek, and when he got down there, he went to dip that bucket in the water, and two eyes were looking back at him. On the backside of those eyes were a water moccasin, and he dropped the bucket and he ran back to the house, and his mom said, "Don, where's the water?" He said, "Well, Mama, I got down there and there was a snake in that creek." And his mom said, "Well, Don, you go on back down there. That snake's more afraid of you than you are of it." And he said, "Well, Mama, if that snake's more afraid of me than I am of it, that water ain't fit to drink." I share a little humor this time because I think in the midst of the work that you're about throughout the session that, and you'll excuse me, I'm using a little technology to read from this morning, and it won't stay on. You need some humor. I think in all the work that we do as a pastor, I remind myself that I have to take what I do very seriously, but I shouldn't take myself too seriously. I think the same can be said for those who make our laws and who order our business on the state level. And so I hope that you take what you do very seriously, but I hope that you not take yourselves too seriously and that you have time to laugh and to enjoy each other's company. I want to read for you from Ecclesiastes just a few verses. You're familiar with these. There's a famous song that was written after it. For everything there's a season and a time for every matter under heaven. What gain have the workers from their toil? I've seen the business that God has given to everyone to be busy with. He has made everything suitable for its time. Moreover, he has put a sense of the past and the future into their minds, yet they cannot find out what God has done from the beginning to the end. I know that there is nothing better for them than to be happy and enjoy themselves as long as they live. Moreover, it is God's gift that all should eat and drink and take pleasure in all their toil. I know that whatever God does endures forever. Nothing can be added to it, nor can anything be taken away from it. God has done this so that all should stand in awe before him. That which already has been, that which is already has been, that which is to be already is, and God seeks out what has gone by. You're on your 39th day of business this session. You're about to wrap it up, and I understand it's going to be a very long day, and so this preacher will not extend it any longer than is necessary. But I'll just leave a few thoughts with you as you prepare to finish the business of this legislative session. Certainly on behalf of my church, Atlanta First, and the citizens of the state of Georgia, we're grateful for your service. We're grateful for the work that you do on our behalf. We also understand that when you make the kind of decisions that you make, that they are important decisions. I think I've probably shared this with you before, but it bears saying again. People ask me, when you're talking, are you afraid that no one is listening? And I've often said, no, I am far more afraid that someone is listening. Because if someone is listening, then there's accountability. And when there's accountability, then you can be held to account. And so I would be far more afraid that people are paying attention than they're not paying attention. Busy days, a long day is as I hear the murmur as I walked upstairs this morning and as I've sat and listened, that it's going to be a long day. Hear this quote from Mother Teresa. Yesterday is gone, tomorrow has not come. We only have today, so let us begin. Whatever's happened so far has happened, and what is yet to be is yet to be. We only have the moment in which we are. I recently was thinking about this, and it occurred to me that for some of us, we're so worried about where we are that we forget about the goal. And then for some of us, we worry so much about the goal that we fail to be fully present in the moment that we have at hand. And so I hope that each of you will be fully present today. I hope that you will be fully present in the deliberations that you will have. The other two more quotes that I will share with you that I think are important on this as you draw to close and wrap up loose ends. And I think this one is very telling from Mahatma Gandhi. The future depends on what you do today. The future depends on what all of us do today. I think that's true for those gathered in the chamber and those who are on the floor. And then I want to leave you with this morning. Franklin Delano Roosevelt. The only limit to our realization of tomorrow will be our doubts of today. Let us move forward with strong and active faith. I want you to be sure of what you're doing. Let there be no doubt in your votes. Let there be no doubt in your work. And when you have finished this day and when you have finished this legislative session, you will be able to look back and know that you did what it is that you were elected to do, and that all of us, hopefully, are becoming the people that God created us to be. So, in the great words of the preacher from Ecclesiastes, there's a time for everything, for every season under heaven. This season is about to end, yet a new season will begin. Last time I was with you, I wore that snowman tie. Today, I wore a tie with bright yellow flowers on it because we are upon the spring season. And I hope that unlike last time, the days to come will be 70-degree afternoons and sunny skies with a few puffy clouds that allow us all to enjoy God's creation and all that we've done. I do hope you will have a wonderful day, and my prayers will be with you. Will you pray with me? Almighty God, for any of us who have been elected or called to serve, we give you thanks for that privilege. Oh God, I ask that you would be present today with these leaders of the great state of Georgia. As I asked last time, oh God, give them wisdom that they might have the gift of discernment to be about the work of the people of Georgia, and that what they do would draw us closer together so that we together can be the people in the state that you need us to be. For we offer ourselves this morning in your name. Amen.
Did what I could. I talked to Jeff. I don't know what happened. How you, man?
I'm hanging in there. Hanging in there. I'm gonna lose too, but I'm hanging in there.
All right.
We're gonna get through it.
Yeah.
One way or
You
another.
got any surprises coming our way?
There's always surprises. I mean, 39th and 40th day is filled with surprises. Yeah. I'm gonna try not to catch anybody off guard.
Good. You had a good time last night.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did too. Thank you. I'd like to recognize the senator from the 18th to present the Doctor of the Day.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate. It gives me great privilege to introduce to you today a dear friend and someone who has served the Senate and the General Assembly very well on a number of occasions as our Doctor of the Day. She is Dr. Rana K. Munna. Rana is a good friend to me and to Catherine, as is her husband Joseph, nearly neighbors. But she is someone who inspires me because of her story. And I know some of you will remember this. She began medical school at the age of 45 at the Mercer University School of Medicine in Macon. And she's one of the best examples of what that school produces and what it means to the state of Georgia. She then completed her internal medicine residency at the Atlanta Medical Center. She became board certified and began her private practice in Macon. Dr. Munna specializes in health, wellness, and fitness, encouraging her patients to lose weight if necessary in order to control hypertension and adult-onset diabetes with lifestyle instead of medication. She is past president of the Bibb County Medical Society and serves as a delegate to the annual AMA House of Delegates. She also serves on the HCA Medical Center Board of Trustees. One of her proudest accomplishments is her son, Christian, a United States Marine who recently returned from Camp Leatherneck in Afghanistan. She's married to Joseph Egloff, who is an avid hunter, farmer. He has some great beef, that Rocking Chair Ranch beef, which we love to enjoy. He's a farrier, which is the art of putting shoes on horses, and together they manage that farm, the Rocking Chair Ranch in Monroe County, Georgia. And Joseph provides their grass-fed beef to several Georgia restaurants, grocery stores, and individuals at local markets. A dear treasure to my area of the state and to our state, I'm glad to introduce to you today our Doctor of the Day, Dr. Rana K. Munna. Dr. Munna.
Thank you, Cecil, Catherine, my office, for allowing me to be here today. I want to say thank you to all of you folks who are away from your families, who are dealing with some horrible traffic, and who do this all day, every day, until you get the job done. We are very proud to be able to do this for you. Bibb County Medical Society will always provide doctors for Doctor of the Day, and I encourage my colleagues to do this as well. It's so gratifying. The one thing that doctors want is for you to help us protect that very sacrosanct relationship that we have with our patients, which is a personal relationship. That's really all we're about, and that's all we ask for. So we appreciate all that you do for us in that respect. And I do want to say, on a personal note, how much I think we'll all miss Cecil Staten. Cecil has been a great friend to Organized Medicine. He's listened to us. He has done the best he could with circumstances. He will be missed, truly. Thank you, Cecil.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 43rd. Thank you, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate. I'm here today wearing my proud purple power tie in honor of the mighty Wolverines of Miller Grove High School. Miller Grove in the gallery, please stand. I am proud to have Coach Charmaine White here in the gallery to my right, along with two of the captains of the team, to congratulate them on their 2014 5A state championship in basketball. The DeKalb County School District is dedicated to developing students both academically and athletically. And whereas the Wolverines defeated the number 5 ranked Warner Robins Demons 70-43 on Friday, March 7th in the Class 5A state championship at the Centerplex in Macon, Georgia. And whereas Miller Grove's victory secured not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, ladies and gentlemen, but 6 consecutive state championships in 5A. Let's give them a hand for that. Miller Grove compiled 28 wins against 5 losses this season. And this was a very special season for this team. They lost a key member of their team at the beginning of the season. Freshman Tyrell Coleman passed away before the season began. And in honor of their teammate, the Wolverines kept his jersey on the sideline throughout their journey to victory. So therefore, it is my honor to represent District 43, the Cobb County School District, and the great Wolverines of Miller Grove High School. Thank you, and again, help me congratulate them. I yield the game. I yield the well, Mr. President. Are there any unanimous consents? Any senator wishing to rise on a point of personal privilege? Chair recognizes Senator 29.
Mr. President, I rise today in sadness to simply mark with those in the chamber the passing of a great American, a great Georgian, Bo Calloway. Mr. Calloway passed away over the weekend, as many of you know. He was a tremendous public servant, someone who chose public service when he didn't really have to. His family had a lot of other interests, a lot of other business interests. He could have lived with his family in peace and spent most of his time working on Calloway Gardens and their many other great works that the Calloway family was known for in LaGrange, Pine Mountain, and all over this state. But he felt it was really a calling to serve his fellow man. From the time he went to West Point, served in the United States Army, he believed public service was something that every citizen was called to do. And he spent his entire life doing it, not only as a member of Congress, not only as a candidate for governor, not only being very involved in the Georgia and the Colorado Republican parties, but for decades afterwards, he continued to be involved civically. He continued to be involved mentoring many young people into politics, including myself. And, you know, it's just pretty amazing, somebody like that who was willing to spend so much time to work hard for the country that he believed in, for a state that he believed he owed a debt of service to. And even in the last couple of years when he was in declining health, when he moved back to Pine Mountain, he joined the Rotary Club down in Columbus, and he had a cerebral hemorrhage about 1.5 years ago, and he was confined to a wheelchair. But the thing I'll always remember about Mr. Calloway is that when we started our meeting and we said that pledge to the American flag, he would stand up every single time. He loved this country. He loved this state. We certainly won't see his like again. And I just wanted to extend my condolences, as I'm sure you do, Mr. President, to the Calloway family. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Thank you, Senator. Bo Calloway was a wonderful man, and he will be missed, but we will remember his great legacy. Thank you very much, Senator. Chair recognizes Senator from the 41st on a point of personal privilege.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, there's a lot of things I would like to use my time to talk about, like ethics or education, but I can't do that. The most important thing to talk about today is the process and how we handle these last hours of our duty for the state. Earlier this morning, we came in and did a rare thing. We had to correct the journal because of actions of committees that were made in error, honest mistakes. They do occur. But when I look back over last session and I see the last 2 days, especially the last evening in my mind's eye, I think that we made several mistakes. He's in.
Let me remind everyone in the gallery, in case you didn't already know, you are there to observe, and you are not there to express your views from the gallery. The Senate will come back to order, and the senator in the well will continue on his point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also think Medicaid expansion is important. But when we have all these different issues, it's important that we focus on them. And I just want to ask the presiding officer and members of the Senate to make sure as we go through these last days, these last hours, that we appropriately listen to every bill. It is not my fault, it may be no one's fault that we had this many bills in the final 2 days. We all know the schedule, we all know what's gone before, but it is a burden to us, but it is a responsibility to us to make sure that we take the time to listen to people. The minority party pledges not to try to unnecessarily slow things or cause problems, but we'd ask you to make sure each bill is heard fairly, and like the end of the last session when we had major pieces of legislation changed, substantive changes, and that was not reported by the author of the bill on the floor in the well, that cannot happen. And to allow a reasonable discussion of these bills is important for the people of this state to make sure we do our job right. So I ask for that, and I ask that you all have great luck in doing good work for your constituents.
Chair recognizes Senator on the 44th on a point of personal privilege. 44th is not present. Chair recognizes Senator on the 32nd. Is there any other group that would like to express themselves now? Let me go ahead and say that obviously we take great pride in the Senate being a very open body. But if I have one more outburst like we just experienced, I'm going to clear the gallery. Chair recognizes Senator from the 32nd is recognized for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I didn't realize how timely my comments are. We've had probably half a dozen people come to this well over the last 39 days, 38 days, talking about the very issue we've heard from the gallery. So may I begin? Get cash back now. Such signs are common in car dealerships. Salesmen always try to heighten the sense of urgency. Buy today before the offer expires, and you can get a 0% interest rate or a rebate on your car loan. But there are some things a salesman isn't likely to tell you.
Senator will suspend. Let me have the doorkeepers, along with others, escort all members out of the gallery at this time. All members in the gallery will be escorted out at this time. Before the basketball team clears, y'all stand right there for just a moment. Everyone else needs to go ahead and be escorted. Let me recognize the senator from the 15th to recognize the special guests in the gallery. I apologize that we have had the problems. Senator?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to take this occasion to ask all of us to celebrate with the AA champion Kendrick girls who finished the season undefeated March 12th of this year. They went 29-0 of the season. They are the Lady Kendrick Cherokees under the direction of Coach Sterling Hicks. They really deserve a big round of applause. The Kendrick Cherokees ladies. Thank you. Thank you for what you do. We certainly appreciate it. The blue and gold of Kendrick. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator on the 32nd to continue.
So where were we? I was at get cash back now, but there are some things a salesman isn't likely to tell you, like how much they've marked the car price up to cover that rebate, or the fact that the 0% interest rate lasts only for the first year after it skyrockets. I'm not here to talk about car dealerships, and I did bring this up and spoke to the senator from the 49th before. This is not about car dealerships. Our White House is using the same sort of gimmick to expand the Medicaid program, talking up the near-term gains while masking the short-term pain. Not only is the White House playing, I believe, an unfair shell game with states that hide the true costs of the program, the administration's making a troubled program less solvent. All on the backs of the most vulnerable, all on the backs of the needy, all on the backs of the lower-income population and on our elderly. That's wrong. Medicaid is already failing its patients. It's failing the most needy and the taxpayers across Georgia and across America. Any expansion of Medicaid in Georgia will make these problems even worse. How does Medicaid hurt the most vulnerable? Well, among other things, Medicaid expansion redirects limited funding away from seniors, away from children, away from the disabled in order to fund health care coverage for working, able-bodied adults. Typically, more than 50% of these able-bodied adults have no dependent children. Many of these people will leave private health insurance to join our Medicaid rolls. And historically, this group of Georgians have never been eligible for any type of taxpayer-funded welfare. How else are the elderly and the needy hurt? Well, most of us know that there's a shortage of doctors and nurses, especially those providing primary care services. Adding 200 to 300,000 more people to our Medicaid rolls will inevitably destroy the already challenging access to care for the elderly, access for the young and the truly needy, pushing them back to the back of the line, pushing these truly needy to the back of the line. A recent study revealed that when and if the average Medicaid patient finds a doctor who will see them, that they wait an average of 42 days to see a doctor. That's twice as long as the average private insured patient. So are you surprised Medicaid patients flood the emergency rooms, driving up our emergency room costs? Medicaid patients wait longer than other patients. Many can't find a doctor outside the hospital setting. And Medicaid patients finally receive, when they do receive care, it's often worse care than even the uninsured. So why do we want to add more to these roles? It's wrong. If that wasn't enough, the Medicaid costs are expensive and unpredictable. The expansion does not come with the promises claimed. Perhaps 1/3 to half of new Medicaid enrollees are already eligible for Medicaid, so the state won't receive any new additional federal funding for those patients. They are an old Medicaid. More about cost. Medicaid is not the lifeline that some project. This spending will accelerate, and dwarf any projected uncompensated care saving, such as those associated with the cost of uninsured emergency visits. Obamacare is already projected to be 100%, 2 times higher than it was initially projected just 4 years ago. Medicaid expansion in those states that have done it have seen a 2 to 4 times greater cost than they were projected. This is a bill that Georgia and America cannot afford. I believe it puts our country at risk and on the fast track to destruction. We must reform our health care system from the inside out. Yes, conservatives do have a plan to do so. Medicaid is one of the largest single cost drivers in our budget, representing more than Georgia spends on transportation and other programs. The escalating costs are rapidly eating up any additional monies available. There's no good solution to the future health care costs for Medicaid. But what about this government money? What about the government money? Sure, the feds promised to pay 100% of the first year and then 90% of the next year. The 10% that Georgians pay is a huge amount of money. That 10% is based on a large, huge number. Moreover, do you really believe that Washington will keep its side of the bargain when it comes to such funding? We don't have to look very far, Senators. Perhaps another promise broken. Do you know that just last month in the budget compromise, our president started negotiating away that 90% funding promise to a lower blended rate formula? Instead of creating new entitlement for able-bodied adults, I believe we should refocus our efforts on improving the existing Medicaid program. When created, it was intended to afford affordable health care safety net for our truly vulnerable. We should focus on meeting this critical goal instead of try to focus on a short-sighted scheme to just go get federal money
Time
when
has
unfortunately our most vulnerable are at risk. I applaud our governor's decision not to expand Medicaid. I applaud his decision not to expand Medicaid. And with that, Mr. President, I stand in support of our friends and neighbors and our elderly and hope that we don't do this in our state. Thank you, Mr. President, for
Thank
a few
you,
extra
Senator.
seconds.
Let's be mindful of 3 minutes on our 5 minutes on points of personal privilege. Can we shorten it to 3? He still went over 5. So, Chair recognizes Senator the 35th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I had not intended to stand up today, but it brought me to tears to see the people in the gallery crying. I could show you a picture right now on my phone where my husband is laying in critical condition in the hospital. and other people in the hospital waiting rooms I've been talking to for 2 months now. And I know that many of them rely on Medicaid. And I had to get up just to say that Medicaid expansion is affordable. Medicaid expansion will reduce health cost care, and I'm sorry if I'm crying. Medicaid expansion will help save rural hospitals. Medicaid expansion will create jobs. Medicaid expansion will save lives. Medicaid expansion by the numbers means that a total increase to the state would be $8.2 billion a year. Annual return on state investments is 1,794%. Total jobs that would be created would be about 70,343, and the total increase state and local government revenue is $276.5 million. Yes, Georgia would almost certainly miss all 100 subsidized years. You see, Medicaid expansion is 100% funded by the federal government through 2016. And by delaying or refusing expansion, Georgia is forfeiting 3 years in which 650,000 people would be able to obtain health care without it costing the state a single dime. Georgians are already paying for Medicaid expansion. The ACA was passed under the assumption that Medicaid would be expanded in every state. The taxes in the Act apply to all states regardless of whether the state expands Medicaid or not. So by refusing Medicaid expansion, Georgia taxpayers are subsidizing other states that did expand Medicaid and getting nothing in return. The Department of Community Health has already made decisions regarding the Medicaid programs in which the state enrolls. These decisions are complicated and must be made at the agency's level in order to make sense. The legislature would retain historical control over the department through the appropriate process. So general Medicaid expansion is people over politics right now. And that's what we need to do. That's why those people were up in the gallery who took time to come up here to talk to us all year and nobody listened. So they had to come today to just plead their case. And so here we are again, ignoring them and playing the Washington politics rather than focusing on helping our Georgians. Perhaps you want Georgia to be a state where people can't afford to go to the doctor. Perhaps you want Georgia to be a state where people are denied health insurance because elected officials are playing politics. But I don't, and millions of Georgians don't. Just say it like it is and be honest. We're not opposing Medicaid for financial reasons. We're opposing Medicaid for purely political reasons. You don't like the Affordable Health Care Act? Okay. You don't like Obamacare? Okay. And you want to do what you can't to obstruct this law. If you don't like the president, you don't like the president. But don't hurt the Georgians. Don't hurt Georgians. Let me tell you something. I think Georgia should be better than this. I think Georgia should rise above petty Washington politics and do its best to become the best state for our residents. Hundreds of thousands of Georgians are without health care. And we can't give it to them we can give it to them at little cost to taxpayers. So let's do it. Let's do something to help these people so they don't have to come and cry out. These are people all across Georgia. And so I leave you with 3 cents on the dollar, job creation, health care for all Georgians in Atlanta, and let us expand Medicaid. And lives do matter in Georgia. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 26th Point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President, and ladies and gentlemen of the Senate. You know, it is amazing how I see some of my colleagues come down and tell more lies about Affordable Care. They don't even know what the Affordable Care Act is. Number one, you got to pay. Number one, you got to pay. The expansion of Medicaid takes care of those folks who don't even make $11,500. That's all it does. Under the Affordable Care Act, you got to pay. But we didn't say a thing when we changed our insurance with Blue Cross Blue Shield. Say we're going to save $250 million to $300 million. Where are you going to save it at? You're going to save it by taking imaging, x-rays, lab tests, and therapies from the hospital. They're all going out to private outsource now. That's where you're going to do it. Now, if you want to take $250 million to $300 million, let's count it up. That's about 2,500, 3,000 jobs that we'll have. No, it's all about the Medicaid expansion. It's all about Obamacare. It's all about the president. It's strictly politics, ladies and gentlemen. Why don't we talk about health care in Southwest Georgia? When you leave Americans can go straight to Fort Gaines on the Alabama line, 65 miles, you can't find a doctor, you can't find a hospital, you can't find a clinic. Why don't we talk about that? Why don't we talk about in Southwest Georgia, white middle-income families cannot get health insurance because it's too expensive because they don't have primary care physicians in those areas. Why don't we talk about that? They talked about we make enough money, but we got insurance on our kids because they have the third highest insurance premiums in the country. And yet we in Georgia, we don't have a problem. We just gave, perpetuity to Gulfstream down in Savannah. We don't have a problem. Perpetuity for life. We need to find a way to fix the problem. Your main candidate, Nick Romney, did Romney Care in Massachusetts. I ain't hear nobody argue about that. You call it Obamacare, it's really Romney Care. That's where the idea came from. What we ought to do is be honest and play the game straight up. Now all of a sudden we want to take away the authority that the governor has to make that decision where to expand Medicaid. Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to cost us. It's going to cost us. Now we can do what we want to do. Because May 20th, folks going to tell you how they feel. They're going to tell you how they feel. And when you get back, only thing you can do is don't go and tell a lie you didn't know. You've been told we got a health problem, rural health. We got it up there in Walker County. We got it down here in Southwest Georgia. We got it over there in Hancock County, in Glasscock. We got an opportunity to fix it. We've done everything this year, from tax breaks to you name it, to everybody, but yet and still when it comes to our Georgians, working families who are out there making a living in our rural communities, we have decided that we're not going to give them health care. So let's face that bullet and not run from it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes Senator from the 39th to on a point of personal privilege.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, I'm going to request my time back from all my points of personal privilege. I just found out I had been shorted by 2 minutes. So I think I have about 45 minutes accumulated. All kidding aside, I listened to the senator from the 32nd with rapt attention. He thanked the governor for not doing Medicaid expansion. And I assume that the senator, therefore, the senator from the 32nd will vote against taking away the governor's authority in House Bill 990. If the governor is doing such a good job by not expanding Medicaid, you don't need House Bill 990. I have never seen a piece of legislation where the majority party voices its skepticism of its own governor. But the reason why the senator from the 32nd and the senator from the 35th and other people have beat a path to this microphone this morning is because this issue of Medicaid expansion is a very serious issue. So I am not going to talk about the 70,000 jobs lost. I'm not going to talk about the $82 billion worth of economic development. I'm going to lost by not doing Medicaid expansion. I'm going to talk about what's important, the people that we serve who would otherwise be covered by Medicaid expansion. We did a down and dirty analysis of those 650,000 people who will go without Medicaid expansion this year because of the governor's decision. And we found that, for example, that in the 3rd district, the 3rd senatorial district, there are about 11,176 people who will go without health care because of the governor's decision. 11,176. In the 54th district, because of that decision, 16,672 people will go without health care this season. In the 4th district, 14,571. In the 39th district, it'll be about 14,052 Georgia citizens who will go without health care. 14,052 citizens who will not have access to the greatest health care system in the world, and we do. We have the greatest treatment, the greatest doctors, the greatest hospitals in the world. The only problem is that not enough Georgians have access to those hospitals. And when you take the governor at his word that he wants to block access for poor folk to emergency rooms, you can see the level of debate that we've gotten to this session. When we look back years from now, when we look back at this season, at this session, when we look back at these 40 days of hard work, when we look back on this session in 2014, we have to ask ourselves, what will be our legacy? What will be our legacy? Will it be obstructionism? Will it be obstinance? Or will it be transformation? Medicaid expansion is just that, a transformative opportunity. It's unfortunate that this governor and the Republican Party does not see fit to take advantage of that transformation. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 16th on a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I just want to come down the well real quickly and mention something to you. A good friend of all of ours, Jay Morgan, who gave me my first job in politics. I'd like for you just to keep he and his family in your prayers. His father passed yesterday, James L. Morgan, Jr., and I'd like for you just to think about the Morgan family and keep them in your thoughts and prayers in the coming weeks and months. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th on a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. I rise, as you all know, every year. I talk about my heart attack I had in '03. But in addition to that, I've had a near-death experience. I've been blessed to have insurance even though I had portions to pay. But when I hear people screaming out and willing to go to jail to voice their concerns about health care, it touches my heart because I was able to get some of the best of care because I do have health care coverage. And as a human being, I know that if we live long enough, all of us will have health challenges, whether it is us personally or our family members. So health care is an important feature for every human being. As a matter of fact, Medicaid expansion under the ACA is one of the most important policy decisions facing this state of Georgia. Why is that? It will create non-exportable jobs and provide health care to 650,000 Georgians. Now, I know we got a long calendar today. I know we are engaged in a lot of sidebar conversations, so I'm going to go ahead and repeat it again. Medicaid expansion under the ACA is one of the most important policy decisions facing this great state of Georgia. Why did I need to repeat that? Because some of us have gotten so bogged down into ACH that everybody likes to call Obamacare. But I thank the Lord today that our president does care. He cares about everybody, not just the have-lotters. He cares about the have-notters. Because the have-lotters want the have-notters to have nothing. But we have to be careful about how we treat people. We have to be mindful that the Affordable Care Act does allow students, young adults, to stay on their parents' insurance. We have to understand that insurance was costing folk who has illnesses already more money just because they were more at risk. One thing that I do know is the poor will always be among us, but it's what we do for the least of these. What we do for the least of these. What we do for the least of these. Our policy decisions, that's what is really going to count for us. We have to be real careful of how we treat people each and every day, because people are humans and humans vote. Thank you, Mr. President. I'll yield the well.
There is a consent calendar of privileged resolutions that are before you. You should have them all on your desk. Is there objection on the consent calendar of privileged resolutions? No. There's no objection. Just privileged resolutions. All of without objection, the privileged resolutions are therefore adopted. The next is the consent calendar for commemorative resolutions. Is there? No. There is objection by the senator from the 49th. Senator from the 49th is recognized on your objection. No, from right there. You're going to be asking for it to be removed from the consent calendar.
Please, Mr. President, if you would move this from the consent calendar.
Well, won't you name the resolution?
1544.
H.R. 1544. Can you say please, pretty please?
An ice cream on top.
Is there objection? The senator is asking for it to be removed from the consent calendar. Without objection, it will be removed from the consent calendar. Secretary will read H.R. 1200.
House Resolution 1200 by Representative Roberts of the 155th and others. Resolution honoring the life of Trooper James David Young and dedicating a road in his memory and for the purposes. The Committee of the Senate on Transportation recommends this bill to pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Gooch of the 51st District Chairman. That completes your order, Mr. President.
This is a recorded vote. Is there objection to ordering the question? Chair hears none. All of those in favor of H.R. 1200 will vote aye. Those opposed, no. And Secretary will unlock the machine. This is a bigger one is the next one. On the passage of the resolution, the ayes are 51, the nays are 0, and this resolution, having received Rex constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. The next bill is H.R. 1544, and there is an amendment that has been placed. Secretary will read.
House Resolution 1544 by Representative Roberts of the 155th. A resolution honoring the life of Major Henry Talmadge Elrod and dedicating a road in his memory and for the purposes. The Committee of the Senate on Transportation recommends this bill. Resolution do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Gooch of the 51st District Chairman. The Committee of the Senate on Transportation offers the following substitute the House Resolution 1544. Resolution dedicating and renaming certain portions of the state highway system, repealing a portion of the resolution dedicating a portion of the state highway system approved on May 7, 2013, and for other purposes. Senator Miller of the 49th and others offer the following amendment. Amend Senate Transportation Committee substitute the House Resolution 1544 by striking all matter from line 1146 through 1150 and inserting in lieu thereof the following. Be further resolved and enacted that a portion of State Route 347 from Interstate 985 East to State Route 211 is dedicated to, as Friendship Road and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
The senator has placed an amendment on there for a local bill or local road that he's interested in. Is there objection to the amendment? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Question now is on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended. Is there objection? Chair is none, and the committee substitute as amended is adopted. Now, does any other senator wish to speak for or against the resolution? Is there objection? Agree and report to committee on favorable adoption of the resolution. Chair is none. All those in favor of this resolution will vote aye. Those opposed, no, and the secretary will unlock the machine. On the adoption of the resolution, the ayes are 52, the nays are 0. And this bill happens to erect constitutional majority. Resolution is therefore adopted. You have before you now the study committees, a consent calendar for the study committees and commissions. Is there objection? Now, this is your study committees and commissions. Chair recognizes Senator 33rd. What purpose you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr.
State your inquiry.
All these study committees, even though we're voting on them at one time, they have all been through the process of rules and everything.
That is correct.
Thank you, sir.
That is correct. All those in favor of the consent calendar for study committees will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary, unlock the machine.
Would this be one? Which one is that? It's an amendment amending Heath's amendment to House Bill 60. It doesn't have it. She said they didn't do it on there.
These are all
On the adoption of the consent calendar of study committees, the yeas are 54 and the nays are 2, and those study committees have therefore been adopted. Now you have a consent calendar expressing the will of the Senate, the will of the Senate. Is there objection? There is objection by the senator from the 41st. Chair recognizes senator from the 41st.
958 and ask that it be placed on a separate calendar for a vote.
The senator is objecting to SR 958. That is the senator from the 48th bill, and he has that right for it to be removed off the table, and it will be removed. The question now is on the adoption of the consent calendar of the 3 remaining bills. Is there objection? Without objection. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine.
No, I have an 863.
I got an 863 original.
That's what I need.
Okay.
Thank you.
On the consent calendar expressing the will of the Senate, the yeas are 54 and the nays are 2. These being adopted. And the Secretary will read SR 958, which was objected to by the senator from the 41st.
958. 950. That's. Senate Resolution 958 by Senator Schaefer, the 48th, a resolution requesting the enactment of the Regulation Freedom Amendment to the Constitution of the United States by the United States Congress and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Economic Development recommends this bill do pass. Request minutes and again, the Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 48th to speak or present the resolution.
This resolution is simply an urging resolution that asks the Congress to consider adopting what's called the Regulation Freedom Amendment. It would be, if Congress decided to act on our advice to them, it would be a constitutional amendment that would create a mechanism for members of Congress to object to federal regulations and repeal them. If there are no questions, I will yield that. Well, I urge your favorable consideration of this measure, which came out of the Rules Committee by an overwhelming, with an overwhelming do pass recommendation.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 42nd for a question. Or
Thank you. Will the President Pro Tem yield?
Certainly.
Right now, just to be sure we understand, right now there's a division or a check and balance that exists between and a separation of powers between the executive and the legislative branch. And what this amendment would do is it would alter that to allow Congress to review the executive branch's regulations. Is that right?
That's correct. I mean, some would argue that the executive branch, which is supposed to execute the laws of the that are enacted by the legislature, has overstepped its bounds by becoming a lawmaker itself through the regulation process. The regulation process, if this constitutional amendment was ultimately adopted, would remain intact, but there would be a mechanism put into the Constitution that would allow the General Assembly to review those regulations and remove them.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 41st for a question.
Senator, will you yield for a question?
Certainly.
Is it not true that the federal government and the Congress, President, often now have problems accomplishing their goals, and that this could, in fact, create greater difficulties and inaction in the federal level, and certainly would impact not only a Democratic president we have now, but later if a Republican were elected to the White House, this was also possibly prevent him from issuing rules and regulations necessary for the conducting of business to protect the citizens of the United States?
You're correct. Without regard to party, if Congress took our advice and proposed this constitutional amendment, it would make sure that lawmaking resided in the legislative branch as the founders of our country originally intended, and give the Congress the ability to to overturn regulations that overstep those laws. Darnold,
Dear, you got a lot of questions on it. Chair recognizes Senator from 36.
Thank you. Does the senator yield?
certainly.
Senator, this looks an awful lot like an effort to just throw another monkey wrench into the Washington politics that already are broken and not working.
Is that a question, ma'am?
Is that the case? It looks like it's an effort to throw a monkey wrench into federal government and foul it up a little bit more, get the gears stuck, and keep things from happening in Washington that the citizens across the country expect Washington to do.
I'm struggling to hear the question,
Isn't that-
but I really
isn't that
can't
the
answer.
case?
I really can't answer how it appears to you. I think it's pretty straightforward. We're simply asking Congress to consider proposing a amendment to the U.S. Constitution that would create a mechanism for the members of Congress to object to and review regulations that are enacted by the executive branch.
And further question, if the gentleman yield.
Certainly.
Would you be in support of doing this to the Georgia governor and the administration, executive branch of Georgia's government?
If you'll recall, we enacted legislation very similar to this, I guess in the final years of the Perdue administration, where we gave the committees of jurisdiction the ability to review and to stay regulations that were enacted by executive branch agencies of state government, and then the General Assembly obviously then having the authority to override those regulations. And I'm pretty sure you supported that legislation.
Can you tell Georgians that the ultimate impact of this resolution would be to break the gridlock in Washington?
The ultimate impact of this resolution, if Congress were to heed it and the amendment were to be proposed and the states were to ratify it, would be to create a mechanism that allowed the Congress to review agencies, regulations that are enacted by unelected bureaucrats and put lawmaking where it belongs to the members of Congress that we elect.
Thank you, Senator.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 33rd. Just a reminder, this is not religious freedom, this is regulation freedom. Might be some confusion.
Senator Yale.
Yes, sir.
Senator, do you know how many other legislatures in the nation are considering these urgent resolutions like this? Did this come from a group like ALEC or?
It is coming from a group. I don't know how many others have proposed or considered this resolution.
Would you share with us what group that is?
If I could remember the group, I would tell you the name, but it's a group that's been organized to promote this idea, which I share and was happy to introduce as a resolution.
Is it not true? I won't tease you about not remembering who we're passing a resolution for the Constitution of the United States. Let me ask you also, could this indeed affect the executive orders of the President of the United States?
Affect the executive
orders of the President of the United States?
I know it addresses specifically regulations. If executive orders fell under regulations, then yes.
Senator Further Yield.
Yes, sir.
So is it true the way it's written, Mr. President, that 10 senators in the United States Senate, which is not a simple majority, and could object to an executive order of the President of the United States? If that were to happen in a time of war, what would happen to us?
Well, I don't believe that the orders that the President issues as Commander-in-Chief would fall under the definition of executive orders. I think this is aimed at regulations that the agencies of the executive branch promote. But if a sufficient number of House members and Senate members objected to a regulation, then it would come before Congress for them to make a decision. The way the government was set up, the legislative branch is supposed to make the laws, and the executive branch is supposed to execute the laws.
Could that be a problem in the President of the United States being able to respond quickly to things that change in an action of war?
Again, I don't believe that. I believe that the orders that he issues as a Commander-in-Chief are of an entirely different category of the regulations that this resolution addresses.
You know that?
I am almost absolutely certain.
Thank you.
Is it in there? Okay.
Chair recognizes Senator from 32nd for a question.
Senator Yield.
Yes, sir.
Isn't it true that individuals across our state and small businesses need to be freed from the burden of excessive regulations at every level?
Absolutely, Senator.
And isn't it true that our executive branch in Washington should begin to start following the laws of this country as opposed to choose to write and rewrite laws of this nation through things like excessive regulations?
You're absolutely correct, Senator.
And isn't it true that these rules and regulations that you refer to are not executive orders of the president that was suggested a few moments ago, but are executive decisions executed through executive branches and agencies such that we're referencing here today?
Once again, completely on the mark, Senator.
Thank you.
No further questions, Senator. The question now is on, does any other senator wish to speak for or against the resolution? Is there objection? Agree to report of committee, which is favorable passage of the resolution. Chair is none. Main question is ordered. Shall this resolution now pass? Question on the resolution. All those in favor of the resolution will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. Chair recognizes Senator from 33rd. What purpose you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. President.
State your inquiry.
If we're not sure what group this is that we're passing it for, would it not concern some members that we may be passing a resolution for a group that has ulterior motives?
Well, Senator, as you well know, that's up to each and every senator to decide. And a lot of folks expressing their freedom today. On the passage of the resolution, the yeas are 36 and the nays are 18, and this resolution has therefore been adopted. Are there, I've already done that. Are there any motions to withdraw or commit? Mr. Secretary, are there any objections filed on any of the bills on the local consent calendar?
Mr. President, there are no objections filed with the Secretary.
Is there objection granted to the report of committee on state and local governmental operations, which fair will pass the bill? The chair hears none. All of those in favor of the local consent calendar will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the resolution, the yeas are 50, the nays are 2, the local consent calendar, the yeas are 50, the nays are 2, and the local consent calendar has therefore been adopted. Chair recognizes Senator from the 16th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent to engross the following House bills: HB 295, HB 729, HB 755, HB 757, HB 816, HB 819, HB 900, HB 918, HB 954, HB 983, HB 1000.
The majority leader is moving to engross the finance bills. That's HB 295, HB 729, 755, 757, 816, 819, 900, 918, 954, 983, and 1000. Is there objection? There is objection. You wish to debate on the finance bills? Chair recognizes Senator in the 41st.
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Chairman.
State inquiry.
Is this only finance bills at this time, and then a separate
The
engrossment?
ones that the senators moved are only finance bills. There will be other engrossment motions later, but these are just the finance bills.
Thank you, Senator. Lieutenant Governor. And is it also true that, and I have no intent to do so at this time, that if I wanted to object to one being engrossed, that simultaneously we could have that one removed and done
Yes.
separately?
Absolutely. You certainly have that. I mean, every senator would have that right.
Thank you.
There is objection on it. All of those in favor of the engrossment motion made by the senator from the 16th will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the motion for engrossment, the yeas are 36, the nays are 17, and the Senate has engrossed the bills by which are listed in front of you. Chair recognizes Senator from the 18th.
To engross the following House bills: HB 257, HB 348, HB 891, HB 1009, HB 643, and HB 772.
All right, the senator has moved on engrossment of HB 257, HB 348, HB 891, HB 1009, and HB 643, along with HB 772. Is there objection? There is objection. There's objection by the senator from the 41st. State your inquiry.
Mr. President, since each of these bills vary in their type and scope, unlike the finance bill, if either from a parliamentary procedure or in his motion to engross at his desk or in the well, if he would explain the purpose of the engrossment in just a very brief format, the intent, so we could see if we have any objection.
You want to address the engrossment motion? Chair recognizes Senator 33rd. What purpose you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Motion is debatable, is it not?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yeah. Well, hold on one second. Chair recognizes Senator from 26. What purpose you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
891 is advanced voting, isn't it? House 891 is advanced voting, isn't it?
I didn't understand. Is a what?
It's early voting.
reducing the time from 21 to 6 days in early voting?
The municipal elections, correct.
Why would parliamentary inquiry?
Continue stating your inquiry.
Why would we engross it so that you can't amend it?
That's that's what the senator has moved on.
I object to that.
I understand. The objection has been made. Chair recognizes Senator from the 41st.
President, I move to move 772 from this list to expedite things, do the others.
772 would be removed from the, he's objecting and removing it from the list to be voted on separately. Is there objection? Without objection, it will be removed from the list to be voted on separately. Senator from the 39th, what purpose you rise?
I move to remove House Bill 891 to be voted on separately.
Is there objection? Without objection, it will be removed and voted on separately. All right, this is the position that we are in, is you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 bills. You have those up on the screen? Those 4 bills are what you will be voting on engrossment at this time. All those in favor will vote aye. You wish to? Chair recognizes Senator from 33rd.
Thank you, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate. I know we have a long day, but I just want to remind you of the traditions of the Senate. I have often voted to engross tax bills, even when my party didn't, because when we had the majority, we believed in that too. Sometimes things can happen that we don't want to happen, but I want to encourage you, and I appreciate the senator from the 18th being kind enough to not object on several of the bills, but I want to encourage you. How many? Was that 15 bills in two motions? But the one before engrossed a bunch of them too. 1 second, please. Well, so what we've basically done is you have taken 16 bills away from our party, which in the Constitution says protect the rights of the minority, from us being able to debate it and amend it. And I want to remind you that one party doesn't have all the good ideas. You know, sometimes we say, gee, that's a good idea, and we vote with you. I know I do. I just want to remind y'all, 15 is too many to do, 16 is too many to do to take the rights of 3 million people away to debate the issue. And that is not what a bicameral legislator that's open to the public and to the process should do. I know it's expedient because of the time, but it's not the thing that should happen.
You wish to, well, no, I don't think it's debatable. Yeah, go ahead. I mean, as far as questions, yeah. Chair recognizes, but yeah, Chair recognizes Senator from the 19th.
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr.
State inquiry.
Mr. President, isn't it true that although some have been taken off the group list, we will vote on engrossment on all of these bills?
That is correct. You're voting on the bills that are listed here on engrossment. Are you wishing to debate? Chair recognizes Senator from the 39th.
Now, the bills that have been taken off the
are voted on separately.
Voted on and debated separately?
Yes.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 42nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the first time that I've seen a bill from the Judiciary Committee get engrossed since I've been here. This is a bill that we made a lot of changes from the House on 643. It makes no sense to me that it's on this list. that could be fixed in so many ways. There are so many issues with it that we're going to have to point out in the debate on a yes or no vote. It would make a lot more sense for all of us if we were able to vote to amend the bill. It's going to be able to be fixed. Right now, it's not. And so I don't know how it got on this list, but I think we ought to vote no in order to get 643 in a situation where we can pass it and it doesn't totally throw a monkey wrench in the way that everybody currently practices law in Georgia.
All of those in favor of the motion of the senator from the 18th on the bills that are before you for engrossment will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the motion for engrossment, the yeas are 36 and the nays are 17, and the 4 bills that are before you have been engrossed. Now the motion is on engrossment of House Bill 891, and there is objection on that. All those in favor of engrossment of HB, you wish to speak? Chair recognizes Senator from 39th to speak.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, Senator from the 42nd has already come to the well saying that it is a precedent. It's the first time that he's seen a bill from the Judiciary Committee be engrossed. I think we have an even more pernicious precedent today to engross a bill which will impact the access of Georgia citizens to the ballot box is something that I have never seen before. To say that we are going to prevent changes to a bill. Now, the House made a change to this bill. Are we saying that the House's changes are changes, or in changes were made in the committee, and those are the only changes we need? What you're doing is eviscerating the voice of 3 million Georgians on a bill which talks about one of our most fundamental rights that we have. And it's something that we all need to pay attention to and take very seriously. This isn't a laughing matter. I'm not talking because the Discovery Bill is bad enough on e-discovery. That's one thing. That's bad enough. But to engross a bill on voting is beyond the pale. We're going to debate the bill. We're going to debate it vociferously. But and I want you to know that this is not an attempt by the minority party to slow things down or otherwise. But let me tell you something. When you start talking about people's voting rights and access to the ballot box, things deserve to be slowed down. Things deserve to be debated. Things deserve to be discussed. And yes, even amended. It's a sad day in the state Senate today. It's a sad day. What are you afraid of? Are you afraid that some of your members, see, this isn't a slap just at Democrats. They're afraid that some of you Republicans might get off the reservation, that y'all might think for yourself, that y'all might at some point wake up to the fact that engrossment is a bad policy. Shame on the state Senate.
All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. You are voting on the engrossment motion of HB 891. On the motion for engrossment, the yeas are 36 and the nays are 16, and HB 891 has been engrossed. Now the motion is for engrossment on 772, and there is objection on that. Do you wish to? Nope. All those in, Chair recognizes Senator from the 41st.
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true this bill is about drug testing and could be improved if we had a chance to work on it? As it is, it's illegal, I believe, and pernicious for Georgia's public. Thank you.
Senator's expressed his view. Senator from 26, what purpose you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true that a couple of years ago, a bill was passed for those of us who run for office to get a drug test, and that was ruled unconstitutional?
I'm sure the senator has good recollection of what he's referring to.
A further parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, wouldn't it also be true if you do this because you are trying to get assistance and you are required to take a drug test, that it'll be ruled unconstitutional?
Well, Senator, again, we're not. You're going to have opportunity for debate on that later. Chair recognizes Senator from the 36. What purpose you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true that if we vote to engross this, there'll be no opportunity to bring this bill within the parameters of federal requirements for food stamps?
Senator is passionate about what she speaks.
And isn't it true, further inquiry, isn't it true that right now we are behind by 32,000 people on the waiting list for food stamps without conducting drug tests? Isn't that the case?
I'm sure the senator knows from which she speaks.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes 739th. What purpose you rise? Nope, waives it all. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the motion, the ayes are 36 and nays are 17, and HB 772 has been engrossed. Chair recognizes Senator from the 54th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that House Bills 697, 788, and 810 be engrossed.
The senator is moving that House Bill 697, House Bill 788, and 810 be engrossed. Is there objection? There is objection. There's objection all over the House. All those in favor of the motion you wish to debate? Chair recognizes Senator from the 33rd. What purpose you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. President.
State your inquiry.
Under the Senate, and I'm truly asking, sir, under the Senate rules, does it address engrossing more than one bill at a time?
Your Senator, again, if you want to, I mean, if there's objection and y'all want to take them up one, I mean, that's what we just accommodated the minority leader with a moment ago. He wanted to vote on engrossment on individual, and we allowed that to come off.
I saw you going in that direction, and I appreciated that, and I know the time is important today. I was just asking for a ruling from the Secretary of the Senate if it's proper in general.
Well, yes, it's proper in general, or I wouldn't be doing it.
Mr. President, one more parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true we've been here a long time together?
Oh, and I love you, and you love me. You
And
know?
I hadn't always seen you do
Don't mean we always agree. It's kind of like, you know, my wife, I guess. But anyway, the senator has moved. All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Chair recognizes Senator 26, who never pushes his light. If he wishes to be recognized, the light has to be pushed. I know over in the House, y'all would like swing your microphone and do all kinds of carrying on, but we like to be civil over here and push the light. It won't light up? Well, I'm sorry. It won't light up. I mean, hey, it must be God telling you something, you know, so. Chair recognizes Senator 26.
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. President.
State your inquiry.
I would ask that we pull 697 and vote on it separately. That deals with the Hope Scholarship. And I'd like somebody to explain to me on this particular bill prior to engrossment, what all does it do?
Okay, all right. Chair, Senator from the 41st, what purpose you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry. Is it not true that both 697 and 810 deal with the Hope Scholarship and the other deals with financial issues of the Board of Regents at the University of Georgia? It's not further true that we could do a lot to improve the Hope Scholarship in Georgia, and maybe you should be able to work on those bills?
I think the minority party has been very clear.
Mr. President, so if we could, let's do all those individually. I'd make that motion.
All right, wants it individually. All those in favor of, which one do you want to debate? We're going to take, no. I'm going to take each bill, the three bills the senator has moved. Everybody pay attention. Since there is objection, and you want to vote on engrossment individually, I'm going to grant that. The first one is House Bill 697. Is that the one you wish to debate? First motion for engrossment is House Bill 698. Chair will recognize Senator from the 42nd to express his view on engrossment on this matter.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've stood up here for years now and talked about the Hope Scholarship. And I feel like that today we're engrossing these bills because I've changed enough of y'all's minds that if I actually got to put forward the positions that we have to protect people in rural Georgia, to ensure that our technical schools are well funded, to ensure that we have access to higher education, that people in here wouldn't be able to live with themselves if they voted no. That's the only reason we're not amending this bill, is because I know at the end of the day we are right on this issue. Rural Georgia needs a change to the Zell Miller Scholarship. Rural Georgia and the rest of us need a change that's going to work for the Hope Grant. 45,000 technical college students left the technical college system of Georgia in 1 year because of what this group and this governor did to the Hope Grant. 45,000. It went from 195,000 students to 150 in 1 year. We need to clean up that mess because it's not just a problem for those 45,000 students. It's a problem it's an economic disaster for all of us that's waiting to happen. And literally what we're about to do right now, we're going to engross this bill so that we don't have to face the facts, so that this group doesn't have to vote yes or no on a group of amendments that would help undo the damage that was done to the Hope Scholarship. This is the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th bill we've engrossed. But honestly, let's just stand up and say, I'm willing to vote my conscience on the future of the state and the future of our economy. Let me tell you this, statewide, if you complete a 2-year technical college program, more than 95% of those people get jobs. We have an unemployment rate that is above the national average. We have a job creation rate that is below almost every one of our neighbors. Our unemployment rate is not going down the way that other people's are. And the reason is because we're not getting enough folks the skills that they need in order to compete, in order to do the jobs that we have. I was in Savannah, Georgia yesterday. and I was in the parade and I was talking to a fellow behind me that runs a roofing contractor. He's got 3 maintenance positions open right now and he can't find anybody to fill them. And I said, did you know that 45,000 people left our technical schools in 1 year as a result of what we did to the Hope Grant? He said, I heard about it. He said, it's a disaster for me as a small business person. We need folks that are able to do the jobs that we have to do. And the bottom line is this vote on engrossment on 697 is a vote to say we do not want to stand up and say yes or no on real solutions to that problem. It's amazing to me that we would do that, although I've been here long enough and I know this is an election year and I know I'm involved in one of the elections. But at the end of the day, we all need to stand up and say, I am willing to put my vote on the table on whether to really truly fix and face these problems or whether we're not going to do it. Mr. President, I'll yield the well.
All those in favor of the motion will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary, unlock the machine. You're voting on the engrossment motion of House Bill 697. On the passage of the motion, the yeas are 36 and the nays are 19, and HB 697 has been engrossed. Now we are taking up the engrossment of House Bill 788. Senator from the 26, your light just came on. Did you push it? No? I don't know what's going on. No, I didn't want to wake you up. No, that wasn't the purpose. What purpose you rise, Senator?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
To the president, I wasn't asleep, but maybe the law decided that you need to see the light go on and off.
Maybe the Lord was speaking to me too. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. House Bill 788. On the passage of the motion, the yeas are 34 and the nays are 18, and the motion has passed. HB 788 will be engrossed. Question now is on HB 810. 810? Huh? Chair recognizes Senator on the 42nd. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm confused. You're wanting to debate the bill or engrossment? There's more to be said than you've already said earlier? Chair recognizes Senator on the 42nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to be clear, this motion that was made by the senator from the 54th is pure politics, because I know on this bill, for example, when we're talking about standardized tests and we're talking about the Zell Miller Scholarship that will pass out later today, information about what that scholarship has become for rural Georgia. And it is a remarkable disservice to claim to be based on merit when what you're really talking about is the things that you end up with as a result of this scholarship. So on some level, I guess I'm glad that we're going to do this, because I would not want the folks in here that represent rural Georgia to have to take a vote that would be so contrary to doing the right thing for their folks. So at that, I just wanted to point out who made the amendment, and that we'll be discussing the Zell Miller Scholarship as well, because it truly does a disservice to rural Georgia. Thank you, Mr. President.
All those in favor of the motion will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. You're voting on the motion for engrossment of House Bill 810. And he knows. On the motion for engrossment, the yeas are 33 and the nays are 19. And the bill has been engrossed. Chair recognizes the senator from the 16th, Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent that all the bills that are currently on the table be removed from the table and placed at the bottom of the rules calendar.
The procedural that needs to be done. Is there objection? You're objecting? Yeah, these are the bills that are on your desk that were left over from yesterday. The senator has objected that these bills be removed from the table and put at the foot of the calendar. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. Chair recognizes Senator from the 19th.
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't this vote on the motion to move the bills off the table?
That is correct. You will not be able to take up any of the bills that have been tabled if this action does not transpire. On the passage of the motion, the yeas are 34 and the nays are 17. And the bills that were currently on the table have been removed. And they rest at the bottom of the rules calendar at this time. Chair recognizes the majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent that all bills on the rules calendar be tabled.
All the bills be tabled. Is there objection? Without objection, all the bills will be on the table. We will remove those off as we did on the 38th day. All right. We are now in our posture of moving on to taking up bills. With that, we're going to take a quick recess till 1 o'clock. Lunch is in the ante room. 1 o'clock. Everybody needs to listen up. We got a long way to go, and obviously a time clock today. At 1 o'clock, listen up. 1 o'clock, the ante room, the gallery will reopen. At 1 o'clock, the gallery will reopen for spectators. But obviously, we will enforce the rules.